Making a sharp turn, I heard last night you compared Putin to Hitler and the West leaders to Chamberlain. Want to expand on that?
Look, on what part? So where do we start?
I don't know. So no, is he going to invade Germany?
I've been saying it for quite a while, so because it started with me comparing Sochi Olympics, with Berlin 1936, and just a year ago, I just remember people was jumping in their chair saying it's just, it's ridiculous, comparing Putin to an absolute evil. And my response was, yes, but Adolf Hitler, it's not, it's when I said, Putin looked like him, it's not Hitler from history books. Because it's not Hitler 45, 44, 43, 44. What about Hitler 1936? How about reading London Times or Le Monde or Toronto Star or New York Times? What they wrote about Adolf Hitler in 1936 and compared what they're writing about Putin. Because the problem with people, with this evil minds like Hitler or Putin is that they're not born being as bad because they definitely, it's there, it's inside. But for them to sort of exploit the evil that is sitting inside, they needed support from the outside world. They needed time, and also the arrogance is growing with indecisiveness and weakness shown by the opposition. So everybody knows that, that's from history books, from the memoirs, Winston Churchill, others, that Hitler in 1935 or 1936 could have been stopped at a much lower cost. Maybe we could have avoided the horrors of the World War II if, instead of sending delegations to Berlin Olympics, the France and England sent their troops to support the Republican government in Spain, where German planes were already bombing Spanish cities for 1 month with Italian troops on the ground, and you could see the French team marching, in front of the Führer with a salute. Then the French press explained it was an Olympic salute. It's a 10 degrees difference. So this is fine, nice. So this is I think was something, it's not evil, but there's some form of energy that could feed the dictator, who could see this parade, just being praised by the world as the leader of the nation who is receiving the Olympics. And I believe that 96 Olympics, they boosted Hitler's confidence. It took for him 20 months for Anschluss of Austria. It took Putin only 20 days to Anschluss Crimea. So it's acceleration. It's also, I was invited to be one of the speakers at the centennial anniversary of Alan Turing, and was honored to open a plaque in the University of Manchester, so in 2012. So, and it was an amazing moment, I was there on June 23rd, so there was a ceremony. That's the day, that's when he could be 100. That was his birthday, and the city was celebrating, but of course not, who cares about Alan Turing, the man who probably made one of the greatest contributions to win the war by cracking German enigma. They were celebrating the rally of Olympic torch entering Manchester. I said, what an irony, because the whole ceremony was invented by Dr. Goebbels. You just go and read in the book, in the books. The entire ceremony of the opening of the games was a German invention. It's 1936, first time where they did it, and the Nazis had the special affection with the torches, with the flames. And, it's just celebrating something that was invented by Nazis, at the day when one of the greatest minds in this country was born, and the man who made a contribution to defeat this evil. So, by the way, there's something also very ironic about Olympic Games, that is very few people actually remember that next Olympic Games, because in 1936 they had to choose the next venue. And what was the next venue? Anybody in the hall knows what was the next venue? Tokyo. Just to understand. And 1944, Rome. So that just gives an idea about, who controlled the Olympics at that time. Now, going back to Sochi, so I could feel that for Putin it would be, sort of big boost of his ambitions. It did happen. Today, when you look at the Putin's record, I mean, it's as dangerous as Hitler's, but I think it could be even worse because Hitler, God forbid, never had his hands on a nuclear weapon. Anybody has doubt that he would have used it? Now, Putin does have access to nuclear weapon. And every day we hear on Russian television, Putin is Russia, Russia is Putin, and there's no future of Russia without Putin. So it's an exact replica of what Rudolf Hess said 80 years ago. Deutschland is Hitler, is Führer, Führer is Deutschland. So we are facing someone who is definitely crazy, who believes that he is a form of the Russian Messiah, who is there to rebuild Russian empire. And, you know, at a certain point, if he feels that he is just going down the tubes, he is losing ground, he can do whatever. And
but let me just push back on that. I mean, whatever can he do? I mean, can he invade Germany? I mean, what exactly are you
Look,
saying?
you know, he started with invading Georgia 6 years ago. Now he invaded part of the Ukraine. That's, you know, first time since 1945.
No, I don't
first
wanna,
time. This is important. Now, the entire system of European security was based on the fact that, you know, territories, you know, were protected by international treaties. He ignored treaties. He took part of the Ukraine. Now he invaded part of the eastern Ukraine. Now, he stopped because the cost was too high, and moving further into Ukrainian territory could cost him, you know, thousands of lives of Russian soldiers, and that might be unacceptable even for Russian public, even with the 24/7 propaganda. But he is not hiding his plans. He talks about every country in the former Soviet Union as a potential target for his plans to rebuild Russian empire.
Why would he, if he conquered all of Ukraine, I mean, that wouldn't be very good economically, would it? I mean, that they're poorer than Russia, and
no, but that's
what would he get from that?
you are, you know, again, I think it's a big mistake because you're trying to judge him from the positions of the elected leader. So he's in power for 15 years. You know, if you stay in power for so long and it's no democracy, so you just have to always come up with new mythology, you know, to support your claim to power. As you know, Russian economy is no longer offering Putin any excuse, and it's not going to improve. And I think
that's in big trouble.
It's a big yes, and the oil prices will never reach, you know, the level of 2007, 2008. Okay, never say never, but I think it's highly unlikely. So Putin badly needs something else to offer to sell to the Russian public. He's there for 15 years.
They get half their government revenues from oil.
Exactly, but
yeah.
that's why he has no other choice but to replace, you know, economy, to replace improvements of the living standards for middle class by this nationalistic rhetoric and by of aggressive foreign policy. Invasion becomes the only domestic propaganda tool to convince the public that Putin is indispensable. What else he has? So that's why, you know, worsening economic situation in Russia might push him further into this aggressive mood.
But not all the Russian invasions have worked out so well in recent years. I mean, Chechnya, Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah, it didn't work well.
Yeah, I mean, and you go into some of the Asian republics.
No invasion worked well. So that's this, you know, what.
Well, I mean, it's not a step.
But again, it's every dictator, you know, eventually failed. But it's not about them failing. We know the outcome. It's about the cost that we're all going to pay for being so passive and so skeptical about their evil intentions.
So you were just in the Ukraine, I gather.
No, I don't think he'll stop in Ukraine. No, I think he has no choice. He'll move. There are many targets. In the south, you have Azerbaijan, Georgia. You have potential provocations in Estonia and Latvia. NATO members, but he doesn't have to bring troops there. Don't forget, he's a KGB guy. So they could use ethnic Russian communities on the border with Russia to sort of create a havoc. And if NATO is indecisive, because all decisions to be made, you know, as a consensus, that will demonstrate to everybody that NATO is a paper tiger.
Reclaiming the former Soviet Union.
It's not so much. I think his goal is to ruin the system of global security because he needs muddy waters, you know, to survive. With oil prices being so low, he doesn't have the same power, you know, just to buy lobbyists around the world and to support all these terrorist networks. So he needs now a new game. The game where, you know, just the rules can be dictated by the military strengths, not by the economy or by the political alliances.
I guess I mean, I remember seeing a movie recently about a few years ago, I think it's actually a Russian movie about the siege of Stalingrad, of Leningrad.
No, Stalingrad or Leningrad? Leningrad.
Leningrad, the siege of Leningrad. And what was sort of amazing, at least how they depicted it, was the risk the German soldiers would take, what they were, attacking, where they would surely get killed, and going hand to hand. Obviously, the Russian citizens took great losses, but the Russians today are much better off than Germans were in the early 1940s, and some of those German soldiers, they're more informed. I mean, could you really push them to just do wholesale invasions when it's not working?
It's as we just quickly talked before coming to the stage, is that it's amazing to see what the 24/7 propaganda can do, even for the minds of people who have access to internet. It's the propaganda in Russia today. My mother still lives in Moscow, and I talk to her every day, and she says it doesn't work for her, but she says it's very difficult to resist. And many of our friends, they falling victims of the propaganda, because you can't imagine people lying with every word. It's 100%. It's like, it's not even Dr. Goebbels, it's Orwell, It's just slavery is freedom, war is peace, black is white. So it's a lie, lie, and lie. So they just don't care. So it's quite amazing that they keep talking about Ukraine as being terrorized by fascists, by Russians being in trouble. I came from Kiev, so the most popular TV shows in Ukraine are in Russian. So it's a fact. So most of Ukrainians, they speak perfect Russian. And what's happened is that this is also quite a sad irony, that Putin eventually created Ukrainian nations, forcing many Russians, ethnic Russians, to become Ukrainians, because they want to protect their freedom. It's no longer about ethnicity, it's about protecting their livelihood. And they understand now that's Putin's troops bringing not freedom, not liberation, but it's just it's a new form of slavery.
So you still go to Russia, or never anymore?
No, I can fly back. It will be one-way ticket.
So you don't worry about them hunting you down and giving you plutonium or something?
Hopefully not here. There are many Russians in this town, but I don't think that they have the same freedom of action as in Moscow.
At what point did you think because you were there for a Pussy Riot, right?
You were
actually,
yeah.
So
I was arrested a few times there. It's about risk assessment. So I stayed there for a long time, few arrests. I knew it was dangerous, but I believe that up to a certain point, they wouldn't probably go that far.
I vaguely remember seeing some tape during the protests after Pussy Riot where you got pretty violently arrested.
Yeah,
right?
violently arrested. Yes.
You got very violently handled, thrown into a
There was a
bus.
physical contact. Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, with riot police. Yes.
Yeah,
so,
but pretty violent. I mean, it looked pretty violent.
Yeah,
as I say.
and
although you were accused of beating them, right?
biting them.
Biting them.
Yes, this is actually no. It was quite serious. It sounds ridiculous, but you can end up in jail because you attacked, man in uniform. Because in Putin's Russia, and that started even, 7 or 8 years ago, which I still call by modern standards vegetarian time, because at that time you can end up, in prison for 5 or 10 days. Now it will be 5 to 10 years. And what saved me that's this moment, every second of this conflict, at 20 seconds, they have been shot from very different angles. So in a video, can actually show everything. That even technically, even if I was, a vampire, I could use my teeth, by being beaten, by a bunch of these police officers. So, okay, it sounds fun today.
And that actually
but
carried weight.
It was
that
not
actually
funny.
carried weight in a Russian court. They couldn't prove you did it.
But it's again, everybody could see it, and at that time they worried about reputation because they had this Pussy Riot and they put them in jail, and they didn't want another scandal. So that's why it died down. But later on, when they started, political trials, and I was out of the country, and They called my mother saying they would like to see me Russian Investigative Committee, which has been doing all these political investigations. And they wanted to see me as a witness on one of the numerous cases there. So I called my friends. I said, Garry, the rule is you enter the building as a witness, and if you leave the building, most likely as a suspect. So I said, fine, thank you. So it was just too much. So just taking this chance, it was 2013, early March, I decided I had enough.